Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Daredevil, Marked for Death, a 1990 collection of Frank Miller's first issues of Daredevil, excluding the very first one he did, number 158, from 1979, because that was the second part of a two-part story, and, I guess they didn't want to reprint their stuff before Frank Miller. So this starts with number 159 and goes all the way up to 164, excluding 162, which was a Steve Ditko fill-in, and it wasn't very good. I remember I had that as a kid. I was buying these off the stands. I missed, I think, the first two issues. I think around 160, 161, I discovered this comic at my local comic newsstand. It was a magazine newsstand. We didn't have comic stores where I grew up. But I remember just being blown away. I guess I was like 12 years old. And I was like, this guy Frank Miller is amazing. And I started buying them. And then like an issue or two later, Steve Ditko does a fill-in. And I was just like, this is shit. So I sold that years ago. But I had those issues. And I could never find 158 and 159. And so I basically gave up when I saw this, years later. I said, I'm just buying this. I'm going to sell those issues that I do have. And, cause I'm never going to find those at a decent price. I was always cheap, but, it's not a bad way to have these comics. No ads. It seems like the coloring's pretty good. The paper's nice. So it's a nice solid little trade paperback. And, unfortunately, maybe Frank Miller didn't want to work for Marvel at the time in 1990, but they got John Romita Jr. and Al Williamson to do the cover. It's pretty bad, especially considering how good the insides are. It wraps around, and not very good. But let's crack this open. This is probably one of my favorite, mainstream superhero comics of all time. I really love these Daredevils. And, even before Frank Miller before he wrote them, because then it really took off. That's when it got really good. But even these issues are pretty damn good superhero comics from the 70s. So we have a contents page. It's kind of annoying they do this thing. Instead of just giving us a nice full-page representation or reprint of the cover, they try to get cute here and show all the covers in black and white, and the one they're focusing on gets the center. But it's tiny, so that's kind of annoying. Okay, so here we go. We got the little, you guys probably all know who Daredevil is, but back then, they used to have this little block that would fill you in if you were new to the comic. So we see all these clips of Bullseye fighting Daredevil. Bullseye had already been around for, 20, 30 issues at this point. He was part of Daredevil's Rogues Gallery. And we hear a narration, we can read a narration, and these are video clips, we realize. And someone is basically hiring a bunch of guys to kill Daredevil. And it's Bullseye. And basically, he's hiring this guy, Slaughter, Mr. Slaughter, and his goons to take on Daredevil. He's going to pay him like $500,000. Now, as you can see, early Frank Miller art, and more importantly, in a way, inked by Klaus Janson when he was good. When Klaus Janson made pencilers better than they were, instead of doing the opposite years later where he would make them worse. But a lot more illustrative art, less stylized. But it's really good, but it still has the great storytelling that Frank Miller became known for. So these are all written by Roger McKenzie. He was just a Marvel mainstay. To be honest, I can't think of one great comic that he ever wrote. He was just always there. He was writing Captain America for a few years, writing Daredevil. But to my memory, he showed up. He was a decent Marvel writer. He knew how to write that way. And I gotta say, rereading these again last night, probably for the first time in 35 years, This is probably, for that writing at that time in Marvel, not bad. It's pretty okay. Because some of those writers you look back on, and there's like cringe-worthy word balloons where you're like, oh God, nobody would ever say that. Or just dumb stuff. This is pretty decent. And kind of like Roger Stern, you know? It's not like I would rush out to buy a Roger Stern scripted comic, but he does a good job. Just doing a nice, solid, typical superhero comic. So that's the lineup. And so this is basically Frank Miller's second issue that he penciled. Like I said, the first one was second part of a two-part story. So now we see Matt Murdock. I'm not quite sure, but there's some kind of brouhaha. Reporters are pestering him. And we see one reporter holding back. This reporter is Ben Urich. I don't know if this is the first time we've seen Ben Urich, but he becomes very important in Frank Miller's Daredevil run. And he basically is thinking to himself, this Matt Murdock, there's more to him than meets the eye. So Matt goes into the courthouse. Of course, his partner, Foggy Nelson's there. I don't know why he has a bandage on his head. Probably some shenanigans. And he asks for an extension. We realize this judge here, he's a hard case. Judge Coffin is his name, no less. And he has it in for Matt Murdock. He doesn't like him. Even though that's, it's not really going to bear fruit for a while. So we realize that Matt and Foggy, as they walk back to their offices, a bunch of these goony type guys are kind of tailing them. Of course, Matt knows what's going on. He can hear their heartbeats. He can hear them whispering. And so they attack our two lawyers in the alley. Matt can't really do anything because he has to keep his secret identity. And basically, they just know that Matthew Murdock has dealt with Daredevil before. As far as the world knows, Daredevil does some investigative work for Matt Murdock. That's what they think. And, you know, Foggy and Matt say, we don't know where he is. And so they say, well, you better find him and tell him to meet us at the pier at midnight. If you don't do that, we're coming back for you. We're going to kill you. So Matt just makes an Irish farewell. Foggy's just like, where the hell did Matt go? That's kind of interesting the way he draws these garbage cans here. This actually does look expressionistic and stylized. So then, this is one of the Frank Miller things that he became known for, these long vertical panels. This still looks so good to me, even as a 57-year-old man. Just as good as it did when I was 12. I love it. And look at Chris Janson, just every panel, he's using zip-a-tone. He's definitely doing more work than most of the Marvel inkers at the time. He really is gussy in this art up. It's looking sharp. So, midnight, Daredevil's at the pier. He's checking out what's going on. And look at so there's a fog out. I love this. I don't know if this is just stippling or some kind of weird zip-a-tone, uneven zip-a-tone, but it really looks like it's foggy. Also, I should say, the colors are by Glynis Wine. Really nice, solid colors for, you know, a newsstand comic book at the time. Glynis Wine was one of the better colors. So basically, Daredevil, there's this tramp steamer that all the bad guys are on. And he starts attacking the guys. And this is another thing that I instantly liked Frank Miller for, even when I was a kid, is his fight choreography, where he definitely liked Steve Ditko. And, you know, if you like Steve Ditko, if you don't like the way he draws, either way, Steve Ditko, when he did a fight scene, he showed you every, like, blow, every kick. It all flowed. It all, you know, cinematically, you could follow the fight. Some cartoonists don't even, like, really care about that. There's just a random punch here. Some guy jumps on him. But Frank Miller really thinks about his fight choreography. Just some kick-ass action. Daredevil and this other goon are thrown overboard. The goon can't hold his breath as long, I guess, as Matt Murdock. Just so many nice panels in here. Some really good superhero art. Matt Murdock, so I guess, wins the day. The other guy just drowns, and he swims to the surface. And he starts attacking these guys again. Now, here's a perfect example here. You can totally see the Ditko there, where, just the guys everyone's in a kind of weird position, which you probably would be in a fight. It's just like all arms akimbo. But you can also see, though, and this could be Klaus Janson's inks, the Gil Kane influence. Because in these fights, Daredevil's very graceful. He's almost like a dancer. Gil Kane, his fight scenes were totally known for that. How he made the superheroes almost graceful in their violence. Also, I should mention, one of the main goons here is kind of like the lieutenant, is Turk. And Turk is going to be a very big character in these Miller Daredevils for decades to come. Turk realizes that Daredevil's playing him for suckers. He's just like, oh shit. He's picking us off one by one. We're screwed. He knocks out Turk, but in doing so, Turk fires off a round. Doesn't hit Daredevil, but the sound is right near Daredevil's ear. And if you guys know anything about Daredevil, he's blind. His remaining senses are super acute. That's his power. So this really fucks up Daredevil. He's like, my ears. And so we see this lookout guy, one of these bad guys. And Daredevil comes up to him. And Daredevil's really not at his best, because his head's ringing, his radar's not working right. But he still manages to knock the bullet out of the air. This guy shoots at him. And then we see Bullseye in his, without his costume. And Daredevil notices him because he's in a boat and he's just filming the whole thing. He's got a camera. So the bad guy is about to spill the beans to Daredevil. Daredevil's like, who hired you? And he's just about to tell him, and Bullseye throws a life preserver. If you guys don't know Bullseye, he's not like a really superpowered. He just has perfect aim. He can turn anything into a deadly weapon, including a life preserver. He snaps his neck with it. That seems a little hard to believe. Like, life preservers are pretty light. So no matter how good your aim is, I don't know if you could snap someone's neck, but who cares? So Bullseye rides off. Daredevil really can't get a beat on him because his senses are fucked up by that gun blast. And now we see the epilogue. Bullseye is watching these films. He knew that Slaughter and his men couldn't defeat Daredevil. He just hired them so he could videotape it or film it and then watch how Daredevil fights. Because he wants to take Daredevil down from all the times that Daredevil took him down. He's just has this bitter hatred of Daredevil. And the cliffhanger is we see that there's a newspaper article about Black Widow. Black Widow's another superhero who Daredevil's had a long-term relationship with. Sometimes romantic, sometimes just platonic. They're partners, though. And basically, Daredevil's very fond of her. And we see Bullseye, basically he's going to use her to get to Daredevil. Look at this interesting inking here. That's very Terry Austin-like. You often don't see that in a Klaus Janson comic. So that was the first issue. Now we're up to number 160 of reprinting. And just some beautiful panels and art of Black Widow. She gets back to her apartment. Bullseye's waiting for her. He uses a hairbrush to attack her, a framed photograph, anything. And he knocks her out with a vase, and then he strangles her with a blow dryer cord. She fights back. And remember, Black Widow's an amazingly formidable combatant. But I guess Bullseye's just a little bit better. And Bullseye brings down a chandelier on her head. And he leaves a note for Daredevil. It's a photo of Black Widow with a bullseye around her face. Now, this issue is called In the Hands of Bullseye. Same creative team as last time. We see Matt Murdock at a grave with Heather Glenn, who I guess is Matt's girlfriend. And I don't know how long they were dating, how many issues, and I guess her father, let me double check this. Is it her father or brother? I don't know. Someone, Maxwell Glenn. He has recently died. And she knows he's Daredevil. So I never knew this. I guess he had a girlfriend he told his identity to. And she says, listen, while you were off doing this, my father died. Promise that won't ever happen again. Like when I need you, I want Daredevil, you to be there for me. And Matt says, I can't promise you that. I have these responsibilities. Excuse me. And Heather Glenn slaps him. And she basically runs off crying, breaking up with him. Foggy's there. And we see later on Matt's at his apartment. And, I'm sorry, I wanted to mention this line. Foggy says to Matt and his friends, his secretary, and he says, hey guys, let's leave Matt alone. I think he'd rather be alone right now. And then the next panel, Matt's in his apartment. I hate being alone. Really like this panel. Kind of weird angle, and we see the shadow of Daredevil. He looks out the window, and he sees a young couple, and he says, why couldn't me and Heather be like that couple? So carefree. And look, it's Peter Parker and Mary Jane, a little cameo there. So he's brooding about, losing Heather, but he knows he made the right choice. He has to be Daredevil. That's just his path in life. He realizes that he needs someone to talk to. He doesn't want to be alone, and he remembers that Natasha's in town. So he says, I'm going to go visit her. He swings over there. I love this kind of stuff. This still really speaks to me. Just really good superhero art. Of course, when he gets to Natasha's apartment, he sees that some kind of huzzarai has happened. It's a big mess, and he finds the note. Look at that. I love this panel. It's interesting, like Frank Miller, he became Frank Miller, that style he has. It's changed over the years, obviously. But his early days, it's like some of these panels, you could tell, like most artists in the 70s, he was trying to be like Neil Adams, be that super great illustrative graphic design style, classic style. And he was pretty damn good at it. Like, that's a really good panel, I think. So now Matt Murdock visits Ben Urich at the Daily Bugle. So I guess Ben Urich has appeared before. And he basically says, I need anything you got on Bullseye. Ben Urich tries to turn the tables and says, well, you got to tell me about, your relationship with Matt Murdock. But Daredevil kind of evades that. And once again, he kind of just takes off. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not there yet. So he tells about how Bullseye escaped psychiatric prison just a few days ago. Killed the psychiatrist. I guess his father, he says, the psychiatrist says, and you say your father beat you? Yeah, until I was 14. What happened then? I killed him. And he strangles the guy. Of course, kills a bunch of guards, grabs a nurse hostage, totally makes a clean getaway. Another really nice superhero panel there. So now, Daredevil is out for blood. He wants to find Bullseye bad. He gets into his little secret identity as kind of like a cheap hood so he can get information. And he goes to Josie's Bar and Grill. Now, Josie's Bar and Grill is going to be a setting in Daredevil for many years to come. And that's where Turk hangs out. So he goes up to this other guy. I guess he's a stoolie. And he offers him money. He says, I need to know about, where Bullseye's at. Just the name Bullseye, him saying it, everyone in this bar kind of like stops what they're doing, kind of turns around. Of course, with his powers, he can hear everyone's heart skip a beat. So he knows he hit a nerve. And then Turk shows up. Turk has got a lisp now from the injuries he sustained from Daredevil. It's kind of funny how he's lisping. All these other goons are circling around Matt. And the fight begins. They all attack Matt. Look at this guy. Speaking of fight choreography, it's like a scene from a ballet there. Turns into a whole brawl. The whole bar's turned into chaos. The lights go out. And Matt did it to give him enough time to turn into Daredevil, to change costume. And there he is. See, this is the very Gil Kane type fight choreography. He looks like he's a ballet dancer, right? But he's kicking the shit out of these guys. So basically, he's beating up the whole bar. And he grabs Turk and says, basically, some cool line like, "You better tell Bullseye, Daredevil's coming." So that's the end of that issue. Now we got number 161. I'm pretty sure, actually, guys, I think this is the first issue I bought off the stand. Because that cover, that is seared into my memory. Really great cover. Once again, I'm going to bitch about how I'm annoyed they didn't reprint these at full size. So now we see Turk running through this amusement park. It's Coney Island. And he's looking for Slaughter. Of course, he calls him, "Mr. Thother, you got to do something." This lisp is kind of silly. Kind of funny, though. And, God, look at this, guys. Would you even guess that was Frank Miller? That is totally like Neil Adams there. And I'm sure Klaus Janson's doing a lot of the lifting there, but pretty amazing. Just, Frank Miller's already like just growing by leaps and bounds, issue by issue. There's some great panels here. So, obviously, Daredevil followed Turk. And he attacks these Slaughter's men. I love, Frank Miller was also known for this, the horizontal. Like just fight scenes with just really great fight choreography within these horizontal panels. It's still, I think, just a great way to show a fight scene. I wonder if he got this from manga. I'm not sure. I know Frank Miller was really influenced by Lone Wolf and Cub and other mangas. So then he hears one of these rides. I guess it's just a thing that goes up and down. The Astro Tower. By the way, look at all the detail of this roller coaster in the background. You wouldn't be seeing this from Miller or Janson, a couple years later. And there's these goons on there. He's pinned. The ride is going to crush him because he's on that tower. The guys are shooting at him, so he makes this amazing leap. Using his bully club, which has kind of a wire on it. And this is another thing Frank Miller loves to do, I can't think of the word for that, but showing you all the intermittent actions, but it's faded, as if it's almost like a ghost image, like trails when you're on acid. He does this a lot, as you can see. So over the PA, I shouldn't even have to tell you. Of course, Daredevil makes the leap and saves himself. And then over the PA, Bullseye's voice is like, "I got your woman, Daredevil. You got 10 seconds to rescue her." And look at this page. This is pretty great. Cutting down the action into all these small, thin panels. So it's Daredevil racing to get to Black Widow, who's tied to the roller coaster tracks. And the roller coaster cars are coming. There's bad guys on the roller coaster cars with guns shooting at him. So this is just really slows down the action where you can totally see. Well, it also kind of speeds up the action, but it also shows you every little moment of how he's trying to get to Black Widow. We see him here, he's pretty close. And then all of a sudden, he turns around and swings away. The bad guys are like, "What a coward, man without fear, what a joke." That's Daredevil's nickname, if you don't know. He left the Black Widow to die. The roller coaster cars hit Black Widow. She falls to the ground, shattered and broken. And it turns out it's just a dummy. And, of course, Daredevil, with his amazing senses, he could tell that she had no heartbeat. So Bullseye has the real Black Widow in this little arcade with some of his goons. One of the guys is a knife thrower, and he's toying with her, throwing knives at her as if it was a circus act. Now we cut away, and once again we see Ben Urich, and he's talking to this old guy who works at the boxing gym where battling Jack Murdoch used to train. That's Matt Murdoch's father. Matt Murdoch's father was killed by a gangster, his own manager, who was a gangster. He was known as the Fixer. And so Ben Urich's on the trail, and he figures this guy might know Jack, and he does. And he speaks very highly of Jack Murdoch. And look at the art here. This is some really nice stuff. And the old janitor guy, he reveals to Ben Urich, he says, yeah, his kid, I didn't see him much. He was always studying. It was kind of a shame, though. All the kids would make fun of him because he was such a bookworm. They used to call him, and Ben Urich says, Daredevil? And he's like, yeah, that was his nickname. Amazing. How'd you know that? So it's like, oh, shit. Ben Urich's really getting close. Well, it looks like he's got it already. So once again, Turk is like the last man standing after Daredevil's beating the crap out of these guys. And he grabs Turk. And he basically says, he threatens him. Turk spills the beans, says, they're in the arcade. Now, Black Widow, remember, she's not some damsel in distress. This idiot knife thrower who's toying with her, Black Widow uses the knives to cut her ropes free, or cuts her ropes, so she is free. Sorry about that. She escapes. She starts kicking ass, and it looks like Bullseye's about to gut her. And then all of a sudden, Daredevil's little, whatever the hell this thing is, his line, his billy club cord, grabs his arm and yanks him back. And Daredevil just starts beating the shit out of him. He's angry as hell. He says he's personally sick of you and your threats. Do I make myself clear? So Bullseye recovers. There's all these baseballs from this one of those little, sideshow games, and he just starts wailing him at Daredevil. I love this. It's almost like a 3D comic, the way these balls are just all over. And we realize that it's not going to be so easy. Bullseye is very formidable. But Daredevil's more formidable. And he knocks Bullseye out. Well, not unconscious, but he knocks him down. Bullseye picks up a gun. And Daredevil realizes that his heartbeat is off the charts. And Daredevil says, I might be able to bluff him. And so he does. He totally does this kind of like stare down thing where he's like psychologically kind of fucking with him. He's like, you tried that before, Bullseye. It didn't work then. You think it's going to stop me now? And Bullseye just starts cracking. And because remember, he's kind of crazy already, even though he's pretty evil and competent in his evil ways. He's nuts. So it works. Meanwhile, Slaughter and his men are just like, nah, don't shoot him yet. Let's see what happens. This is Bullseye's thing. And Bullseye totally cracks. God, look at this Neil Adams stuff going on here. It almost looks like Havoc in the X-Men from those classic X-Men issues he drew. And he's like, he totally cracks. And he just starts mumbling. And he's just like, don't hurt me, devil. So it's not hard for Matt to just handcuff him or whatever he binds his hands with. And basically Slaughter says, I'm not going to kill you. You've earned my respect. But one day it'll be different. But you can go. You and Black Widow can go. We have this little bonus page, which is actually kind of handy, explaining how his whole blind man's cane turns into these two truncheons and billy clubs and how the wire works and all that stuff. If you care about that sort of thing. I did a lot when I bought that comic. So now we have number 163. So we skipped an issue. The Steve Ditko drawn one. It was a total fill-in. I mean, it had no consequence to the rest of the comic. And this one features the Incredible Hulk. This is a really... I didn't really read much Hulk comics as a kid, but this was a really good one. Because Daredevil was so outclassed in this. So we see Matt Murdock. He's at this fancy, I don't know, charity ball or some kind of function. All these guys in tuxedos. Heather Glenn comes up with her new boyfriend. Apparently, his name's Rico. And he's into disco. And he knows all the moves. So it looks like she traded up with Rico. Back then, that was quite an asset. Matt seems like he's giving them the cold shoulder. He really doesn't care. Only because he hears like a thunderous heartbeat, an inhuman heartbeat, blocks away. He knows the Hulk's in town. He knows it's the Hulk. Daredevil has dealt with the Hulk before. So seemingly as if he's ignoring them and just walking off, he's really trying to get out of there so he can find the Hulk. Once again, Foggy's a pest, makes it hard for him by butting in and be like, hey, pal, you want someone to talk to? And he really just wants Foggy to get the hell out of there so he can turn into Daredevil. Look at this really heavy inking from Janson here. I mean, I guess Janson always did. He made whatever artist he was penciling look a lot like him. So I love this, how Matt Murdock just jumps off the balcony. It's like 20 stories up. Uses his cane to grab this flagpole, and he runs off. He doesn't even bother changing into Daredevil. And he finds the Hulk a few blocks away. He's in an alley. Now, this is a slight change with the creators. Joseph Rubinstein and Klaus Janson inking. And you can kind of tell it does look different. Especially, I wonder if Joseph Rubinstein drew the Hulk, inked the Hulk specifically, because it does look different, the way the Hulk is inked. More like classic Marvel. So he's trying to talk the Hulk down, calm him down. And of course, Hulk's like, fuck off, throws him into some garbage. He starts attacking him, but luckily, Matt Murdock figures out, just what to say to the Hulk to get him to calm down. This is an interesting take on the Hulk. I've never heard him say this. But basically, Hulk is furious because he hates Banner so much. So it's almost like self-hatred he's talking about. But he's like, oh, Banner always tries to hurt me. I'm looking for Banner. That's why I'm here. I have to find Banner so I can kill him. And Matt talks him down, though. He's like, you can't find Banner this way. Violence isn't the answer. Trust me, Hulk. You know me. They have met before. So it works. He calms him down. Hulk turns into Bruce Banner. And the next morning, Bruce Banner wakes up in Matt Murdock's guest room. That looks very Gil Caney right there. And Matt Murdock gives him some money and sends him on his way. He says, good luck to you. Of course, Bruce Banner wants to get out of the city. He knows if he turns into the Hulk in the middle of Manhattan, it'll be catastrophic. He wants to get back out to the desert where he can't hurt as many people. He figures it should be fine as long as I take it easy. And he gets on the New York City subway. Now, if you've driven the New York City subway back in the 70s, you know it wasn't a calming, soothing experience. So instantly, people start shoving him. This guy's got a cigar in his face. This guy has a boombox, and Bruce Banner asks him to turn it down, and the guy shoves him. And he gets burned by the cigar. He turns into the Hulk in the middle of a subway car. This does not bode well. He's so strong, he just leaps right through the top of the subway car, right through the street, and into the air. Meanwhile, Matt Murdock's taking a taxi, and once again, he hears the commotion with his super hearing. He gets out of the taxi, turns into Daredevil, and he goes to where the Hulk is going nuts. It seems like once again, he's almost talked him down, calmed him down, and then some cop shoots him in the back. That looks like Klaus Janson again there. Oh, it could be Joe Rubinstein, though. He used a lot of effects, like Zippertone. And the Hulk is going to kill that cop. He's going to myrtleize him. But then Daredevil jumps in to save him. And, this is just I love this kind of fight scene where it's like, you don't have a chance in hell. Just showing how brave Daredevil is, you know? He really is the man without fear. The Hulk could rip him limb from limb, but he still won't give up. He's like, his ribs are broken. He's all bleeding, but he's like, I gotta stop the Hulk. And so we see the Hulk raging, asking for Banner. And then all of a sudden we see this bus come out of nowhere. It's Daredevil. He commandeered a bus and drove it right into the Hulk, leaps out the window. Hulk destroys the bus. I'm pretty sure that's Rubenstein. Very much cleaner than Janson, you know? Slicker. Now, here's a little interesting aside. There's a crowd gathered, news reporters, cameramen. Heather Glenn shows up without Sans Rico. Thank God, because he's probably off somewhere doing the hustle. And she's kind of talking to herself. She says, Matt. And guess who's right there? Because he's a reporter, Ben Urich. He overhears her. And he hears her once again. It's almost say Matt. The second time she says, oh, do something before he kills Matt. And Ben Urich hears the whole thing. Guys, look at this shit. This is what I was talking about with the intermediary, like, ghost images. This one, Daredevil's running all around Hulk, trying to find a weak spot. God, I love this kind of stuff. But this is just ridiculous. This is like a gnat trying to hurt an elephant. And Hulk swats him away. It looks like he swats him like 50 feet. Daredevil can barely stand, but finally he gets up and tries to plead with the Hulk one more time. He says, I want to help you. You'll have to trust me. And I guess it reaches the Hulk. We see his face, but Daredevil doesn't know what happens after that because he passes out. And, of course, the ambulance shows up. And then one of the cops says, oh, yeah, the Hulk took off. I saw him leaping out of here, you know, like a bat out of hell. But the weirdest thing is I'll never forget the look on his face. It looked like he lost his only friend in the world. And look how overwrought Hulk is. It's just like, oh, what have I done? He's ripping his shirt. I didn't like that panel. A little silly for the Hulk. And then the epilogue here, we see Ben Urich typing away. His wife says, come to bed. He's like, I can't, honey. I got to get this done. And we see in his typewriter, he's exposing Matthew Murdock as Daredevil officially. And now here's the last issue from this collection, number 164. This was like one of those, Marvel would do this all the time, where they just have a little issue that's kind of standalone, just retelling the origin of the hero. Maybe every 10 years they'd retell the guy's origin. But this is a really good one because it fits in with the whole story about Ben Urich. So we start off here. Matt Murdock's in his hospital bed. The Avengers have visited him. It's interesting seeing that, you know, young Frank Miller interpreting the big guns at Marvel. Because he didn't really draw it. He never drew Thor. Well, he might have did a cover here and there. But I kind of like, it's kind of interesting to me. When I was a kid, believe me, when I opened this comic, I was like, ooh, oh. I feel funny in my underwear region. And the Fantastic Four visit him. Even Power Man and Iron Fist show up. But then pretty much everyone leaves. We see by these headlines that he's getting better. The headlines are like, he's off the critical list and he'll leave the hospital tomorrow. Natasha's there the whole time. Apparently their love is still pretty strong. But then Ben Urich barges in the room. Black Widow says, get the hell out of here. But Matt says, hey, I know this guy. Let him in. Ben Urich basically confronts him. He says, he calls him Matt Murdock, just flat out. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, okay, if you're not Matt Murdock, tell me what's on this photograph. And Matt can't touch it. And so Matt tries to bluff, and then he can't lie anymore. And he's like, yeah, you're right. It's true. And so now he basically says, okay, what happened? Tell me your story. And Daredevil, I'm sorry, the photo was of his dad, Jack Murdock. And he says, Dad was the greatest, I remember. And so now this is a more extensive retelling of his origin than, I think ever before. really talking about Matt as a little kid, his relationship with his dad. His dad was like a pug, a boxing, not a dog, but just kind of like a second-rate boxer. Didn't know anything else, kind of a dummy. And he wanted his son to grow up to be different. He basically drilled it into his head that you got to study, you got to make something yourself. So he did. He obeyed his dad, which meant he could never play sports with the other kids. He could never hang out. He was just constantly studying. Because of this, the kids made fun of him, and as we said earlier, they used to call him Daredevil as a mean little joke. That's kind of a weird panel here where Matt Murdock looks like he's 28 already by his face. I blame Klaus Janson for that. In fact, this whole issue, I suspect Frank Miller was a little behind on deadlines and just did rough layouts, and Klaus Janson actually drew most of it. So he's tired of getting picked on. He's still going to follow his father's wishes, but secretly he works out all the time. And but he still studies, still gets A's. And then his dad makes the mistake of signing up with this crooked boxing promoter, Sweeney, who they all call the Fixer. And under his management, he actually does start getting some bigger fights. But he also humiliates him. Like, look, I love this scene, the way it's told. When he makes him sign the contract, he purposely drops it on the floor. So Jack has to get down on his knees. His goon puts his foot on the paper. So it's really like a deal with the devil. Meanwhile, this is the real origin of Daredevil that we all know, how Daredevil got his powers. They were trucking some radioactive shit through Manhattan. The driver got a heart attack. The truck went out of, lost control, and it was about to hit this poor old man. And Matt, bravely, sacrificing his own life, leaped out and pushed the guy out of the way. A radioactive isotope fell out of the truck and blinded Matt forever. It also gave him powers. Once again, some really nice horizontal panelology here. I like how they're coming out of the panel here to accentuate the drama of this is the panel you're supposed to be looking at. That's where the action's happening. All very simple classic storytelling techniques, but Frank Miller at a very young age really grasped it, probably because he loved Will Eisner and the Spirit as a young guy. So you could tell he probably studied those Spirit comics. So we see he's got his powers. Of course, he keeps it a secret from everyone. He's got radar. And he meets Foggy in college. Now back to the, oh God, that's a really nice panel. See, this is when Janson was so good at making the light and shadow interplay. He was so good at that. He was like nobody could touch him with that in inking. Even his kind of mentor, Tom Palmer, I think Janson was better than Tom Palmer at it. I think that's where he learned it from. Because he was the only other guy who did shit like that. I know I'm going to get some bad comments from that, but believe me, Tom Palmer is great. So, unfortunately, after winning a bunch of bouts, Jack Murdock's career looks like it's on the upswing, looks like things are going good, but really it was all a scam. Sweeney just wanted him to build up a little rep, and then he demands that he take a fall in the next fight. Battling Jack says, fuck that, but he realizes that he needs the money. His son is still in college. He can't refuse. He's got to swallow his pride. So then we cut away. Foggy sees that Matt's dad, Jack, is boxing. He says, we got to go to the fight, Matt. He's like, yeah, for sure. Wild horses can keep me away. So the night of the fight, Jack's getting the shit kicked out of him. To be honest, it's not necessarily like he's trying to throw the fight. It's all the other matches he had. Sweeney was telling the other boxers to ease off. So, because he's not the best boxer. He never was. So he's getting the shit beat out of him. And the guy's even taunting him. Basically saying, you're nothing. You'll never be nothing. And Sweeney comes over and says, Do yourself a favor, Jackie boy. Stay down. You got to lose this fight. And Jack Murdoch, he's so pissed off. He finds this inner rage. And he gets up and he just wails into this guy. Nice little fight montage, I thought. I like how that's done. Guys, I'm almost positive this is mostly Janson. This doesn't look nearly as good as the past 4 issues. And so, of course, if you know Daredevil's origin, because of that, the Fixer's goons shot Jack Murdoch in the back and killed him. Now, Matt goes to the gym and talks to that guy we saw last issue when he was younger. Strangely enough, I guess when he was a young man, he was Caucasian. The colors didn't get the memo, I guess. And but he tells Matt how he told him not to mess with Sweeney, and basically saying, "Hey Matt, just let it go. Sweeney's a killer." But no, Matt is not going to let it go, and this is the first time Daredevil pops up in the Marvel Universe. So we see a bunch of goons playing poker. Daredevil busts down the door. There's some really nice effects work there. Great use of zippertone and stuff, and we get a few nice panels of fight choreography. And Daredevil's just he's just full of rage. He's just wailing these guys. And of course, he's looking for Sweeney. Now, Sweeney and his main henchmen are running scared. The lights go out. Then all of a sudden, one spotlight comes on because they're near the gym. And Daredevil's in the middle of the boxing ring with boxing gloves on. And he says, "You owe me more than you could ever know, Sweeney. I'm here to collect. It's time to pay the devil his due." Look at that. He's pissed off. And he beats up the goon in the ring. Just destroys him. And then he starts chasing after Sweeney. But Sweeney's like an old guy. And he starts feeling chest pains. And Daredevil keeps chasing him. And Sweeney has a heart attack. And he says, "This one's for you, Dad." Well, he thinks it. So now we come back to the present. And he basically says, "Yeah, Mr. Urich, that's how my career began. But if you ever print this story, my career will be over." And Ben, of course, has this amazing moral dilemma to think over. And he says, you know what this story means to me, Matt. This is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but..." And he takes out his lighter and he torches his notes. I love this sequence of panels here. This is where okay, this isn't your average superhero comic from the 70s. Most of them were drawn with all this bombast. The whole Marvel House style was to basically rip off Jack Kirby. None of them could do it as well. Big panels of action. But this is just so, this is Steranko. This is pure Kriegstein Steranko stuff. Actually thinking about, storytelling. Really like this. Slows down the moment, makes it more dramatic. He tosses the notes in the garbage can. And as he walks out, he says, "This one's for you, Matt." Kind of corny, but overall, really good issue. I mean, I love all these issues. Literally, guys, I haven't read these probably since the late 80s. Maybe early 90s was the last time I even picked these up. Because I knew they were so good, I didn't have to review them. I've told you guys I like to weed my comic collection every few years. At least, it's pretty weeded at this point. But my whole life as a comic collector, every few years I'd pick shit off the shelves and be like, "Yeah, I don't need this. I don't need to ever see this again." I never even picked these up because I knew I was going to keep them. It wasn't like, "Oh, these aren't actually that good." I just knew they were. This is kind of fun. We get a special bonus pinup. This is the unused cover to Daredevil number 164. That's what it says. But 164 is the origin issue, which has nothing to do with the leopard. 162, the fill-in issue, drawn by Steve Ditko, he's fighting a leopard with a much worse cover by Ditko at the time. That's what came out. So I don't know I don't know. I think they're wrong. This is the unused cover for 162. So there you have it, guys. Daredevil Marked for Death. Like fine wine. This is aged wonderfully in my eye sockets. Sorry, that's a horrible mixed metaphor. That was terrible. But I hope you guys like looking at it. I know, some people don't like superheroes. I still have an affection for the really well done ones. They really give me a kick. I really get excited when I see some shit like this. It still thrills me. I still love it, just like I'm a 12-year-old kid. There's not much of these, unfortunately. Like I said, over the years, I've weeded out almost all my childhood comics. I've got a handful. I still have a bunch, but still, compared to what I had, I really was just like, I don't need to ever reread DC Comics Presents number 8. Like I had so many comics like that. They were like, it's pretty well drawn. It's a fun comic. But this is definitely, I'm pretty sure when I'm 87, this is going to stand the test of time and remain in my collection. So this, as you can imagine, guys, this is the first of a new series within the channel. Every few episodes, I'm going to be looking at all of the Frank Miller Daredevils. And there's a couple more issues before he starts writing the comic as well as drawing it. And that's when things really kick into high gear and things get really good. And I'm pretty sure it's not crazy to say there's some of the best superhero comics, mainstream superhero comics ever made, those Frank Miller Daredevils. And I'm interested to see how I'll feel about them now. I have a feeling I will like them. Okay, guys, I'm rambling, so I will let you go. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.